trading advice for a new trader. Hi, it's Charlie giving you Saturday's video. I hope you're very well. I'm recording this actually on Thursday. Now, I've had a comment come through and I thought this makes for a really interesting video here. And this trader has said, hi there, Charlie. I've traded my plan perfectly for a year, was up nicely, but over the last few months have lost 14R, didn't do much wrong at all, was very disciplined. What would you suggest now? Scrap the strategy and develop something new, or just assume that it was a temporary blip due to the summer markets being slow? Cheers. So I think this is a fascinating type of question because the reality of mechanical trading, and I've got a few things to offer here of advice, but the reality of mechanical trading is that most mechanical trading strategies will actually fizzle out and they'll fade away and just fizzle out. So they'll lose, whatever their edge was when you've tested them, they'll lose that. So that's the reality. It's not all of them, not everything. So there are ways to potentially overcome that. So my first piece of advice would be, okay, well, what was the historical performance of this strategy? So the way that it reads, it sounds like historical. It sounds like a mechanical based strategy. So I'm basing my answers here on that. So if it's a mechanically based strategy, it must have some form of back tested performance. So what was the historicals? And the historical performance will give you information. It will give you information about losing streaks and information about winning streaks as well. So, what was the biggest drawdown, for example, historically? So quite simple. And if the historical, so he's done a 14R loss. I don't know if that's peak to trough or it's down negative. His account now down 14R. So those again are questions that would need answering. So if your P&L was doing this and then it's come off from its high minus 14R, that's one thing. But what if if this is where the account started, if it's actually now down 14R down here, then what's the peak to the trough drawdown, which might be 28R or more? I don't know. So that's something else that I don't have an answer on here. So these are the things that this individual can look at himself. And so what is the drawdown relative to the historicals? So is it outside the historical drawdowns within the back tests? We must have done back testing on this. Even if it's not, so let's say it is a drawdown of 14R. So let's go with the fact that let's say it's a minus 14R as a drawdown. So even if it is a 14R drawdown, and let's say the historical backtest had a drawdown of minus, let's say 10R. Okay, so it has gone outside of the historical drawdown, but you sort of have to expect that. You do a back test on something and it gives you a historical maximum drawdown of minus 10. Well, a simple piece of advice would be to double it. Double it going forwards. So if it's still within the realms of that, what your historical drawdown was, by doubling it, then at this stage you don't know enough. So at this stage there's not enough necessarily information to know whether to ditch the strategy as he's asked there. So I'm just giving him food for thought here, and this might relate to other traders who might be going through a similar thing or have gone through similar things with other strategies. So now when I've said double it, if you've got a strategy which has a historical drawdown and it's done 40% historical drawdown in the past, or 40%, let's say, well, you can't really afford to double that. So again, it does depend on the strategy itself and its historical drawdown. So there's points where you'd say, well, no, it's got to stay within that, or it's over. So let's say it is well beyond the boundaries of that. Then coming back to my original point is that lots of strategies do fade out over time. So all I can do is at this stage is offer some some information in that regard to say, well, look at the historicals, look at the wins and losses, how they come historically. Are they nice and evenly spread out, which is lovely in theory, but the reality is more of the time you get a run of losing trades and then a run of winning trades, So, and what's the maximum drawdown? Now, if you're beyond the maximum drawdown levels, then you may not be quite ready to ditch the strategy. So one thing that you could do, is carry on trading it until it has done something like double the historical norms. If it's already done double the historical norms as far as drawdowns are concerned, you have to have a point where you say enough's enough with a given strategy. Otherwise, you just carry on trading it and your account balance could end up at zero if it carries on falling away. So these are important things to look at when you're mechanically trading. I think look at the historics, give it a bit of a buffer on top of those historical drawdowns. If you're already at the upper limits of that buffer, then yes, you probably do need to ditch the strategy, because like I said at the beginning, most mechanical strategies will fail over time. Doesn't matter how good they are in the past, it will fail at some point or have such uncomfortable drawdowns that you just can't stay with them, and so, and this brings me to my final point, which is, and as many as you followers know, I'm not a believer, and I'm going against what some people will say here and what some people feel, and that's fine, because what I'm about to say is just my view, and I know that it's not right for every type of trader with every type of trading strategy. I'm a believer that because of what I've just said about a lot of mechanical trading strategies will fade over time, that all that ends up happening is you become a strategy hopper. So you devise a new strategy, it works for a bit, and then that one fails. Then you use one, and then that one fails. And you just go through your trading life, so to speak, jumping from mechanical strategy to mechanical strategy. So my general advice is I wouldn't trade that way. I don't get me wrong, I personally have strategies, but I use them to enter the market based on the context of the market that I'm trading. Now, that may not be easy depending on whatever it is your mechanical strategy is, but do you want to carry on jumping from the strategy that loses to loses to loses to loses and carrying on having that type of frustration? Or can you take a strategy which actually can be applied to the context of the market on any given day, week, month, year? So, and that's how I tend to approach the markets personally. It's how how a lot of traders in my community approach the markets, is analysis first, and then comes the strategy. And then you don't have to be just mechanically trading all of the time, and then, I've got to ditch that one now because that one stopped working, and now I've got to ditch that one because that one stopped working. And so now, like I've already said, not every single mechanical strategy is like that. There are mechanical strategies that do work, and they have their drawdowns and all of that, but they do work over time. But I just have to lay it out there, my view of things, that for a lot of traders, I think they would be better served learning the art of trading and then applying the art of trading with strategies, with entry techniques and the likes, and doing it that way. But that's my view, and of course my view is not going to be the same as everybody's view, and I appreciate that mechanical trading certainly has a place, and there are plenty of traders, I'm sure, who have mechanical trading strategies which have run for years. And you need to have a mechanical strategy running for years, live for years, to prove that it actually does work. If you say I've got something which is back tested, or it's made me money for 6 months, I would still say, come back to me in 3 years time, and then and if it's still working then great. So you don't know a mechanical strategy until you've actually been trading it for a long time, what its longevity is. So lots of things to think about there in today's video. Hopefully that gives you some food for thought. By all means, answers on a postcard as always, and I'll see you at the next video.